Welcome to Live From Your Heart. This isn't just a podcast you'll listen to. This is for those moments in your life when you start to realize something's off. Maybe you've spent years doing what was expected, showing up for everyone else, playing the roles, and somewhere along the way, you lost connection with yourself. If that's you, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm going to have real conversations about what it actually looks like to come back to your own heart and start living from that place again, or perhaps for the first time. And if at some point you realize you're ready for more than just listening, I'm going to show you what the next steps look like. So let's get started. Hey, it's Les Paul, and welcome to another episode of Live From Your Heart. Episode 15, 15 weeks we've been hitting this hard. And as we step into week 15, we're going to talk about the cost of approval, what it costs to get others' approval. And let me say this right up front. You cannot live from your heart and organize your life around getting others' approval, being liked. Doesn't work. That's one reason why you land where you are, because you've been living your life getting, seeking, desiring others' approval. So if you're going to live from your own heart, you got to ditch it, and it's going to cost. So you got to, at some point, begin to decide whose life are you living. That's what I had to decide. And I can tell you from my experience, if you've heard my story, and if you've not, please go back and listen to my story, because sometimes I'll make reference to things in this podcast that I talked about weeks ago in my own personal story on how I shifted gears and when it took place. But at the point I decided this is never going to work again, it was about 3 or 4 years before I reached a place where I was living from my own heart. It took some time. You can't live for others' approval and live from your own heart. It won't work. You've tried it. Okay? Is it hard to see? Oh my gosh. It's probably the big hinge, the big obstacle, the big wall that keeps people from making the shift, making the change. Okay? It took me years to make the decision. And then, as I said, it took several more years to get onto the other side. Now, we can think through this for just a minute. Well, if I live for my own heart, does that mean I'm not being responsible? Because being accountable and doing what others like for me to do, want me to do, that's being responsible. That keeps the peace. That's doing what's expected. Yeah. But you're not living honestly from your own heart. That's what I realized. That's what you're realizing. So I want to talk today about the cost of needing to be liked and what it takes to finally let go. Now, here's kind of the idea in all of our lives. I'm going to go quick. Hold on. Here we go. You're dependable. You're responsible. You show up for everybody else. You do what people expect of you. You were that person, or you are that person that everybody can count on. That's who you are. That's your identity. Somebody pops into my mind when I said that, and I went, oh my God. And will that person ever live from their own heart? Probably not, because I can tell you for about 18 months, I challenged this person every day, every week to live from their own heart. And they finally shut me out because they were tired of hearing me. They didn't want to hear it anymore. Yeah. Okay. But here's what's going to happen. This is what happens when you get honest. Okay. What were you saying yes to that didn't feel right? Got to ask the question. This is where it takes. This is what it takes to get honest. What were you saying yes to that didn't feel right? Where were you staying quiet when you should have spoken up? Ooh. Were you adjusting to yourself, or are you just keeping things smooth? You don't want to rock the boat. Okay. Those 3 questions are going to have to run through your mind. And internally, you know, but here's what you've told yourself. That's no big deal. It's easier this way. Look, I don't want to create tension. And so you stay agreeable and miserable because it's at your expense that you live for everybody else, but not yourself. Okay. So there's a moment when this shifts. Maybe not dramatic. For me, it wasn't dramatic. It was just a realization I can't do this anymore and I'm not going to. Okay. Here's the shift. That wasn't love. It wasn't generosity. It was fear that I was never going to be approved. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of, oh, here it comes, not being needed. Yeah, that hits you right between the eyes, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, they don't need me. And here's the cost. And this is where it lands. What did approval cost you? Your own voice, your own clarity, your own boundaries, your own direction, your own internal peace. You kept the relationships smooth, but maybe you need to lose some of those relationships. I'm going to tell you, it was a bumpy ride with my parents, and I never resolved it with my dad. Never. Before there was ever any resolution, my father had a stroke. He lost his memory, and we never talked about it. My mother and I, we tried talking through it many, many times. She just got old, and it didn't really make sense to her anymore. Do you know what? I have an older brother who got just better. He's still better. He hates everybody in the family. Everybody hates himself. He's a miserable human being. Miserable human being. But you know what mother and dad were to me? They were still my mother and my dad, even though they were a huge obstacle that I've talked about and talked about and talked about. They loved me. I loved them. Now, it didn't stop me from making the shift. And I made that shift. Yeah, and it didn't go well for quite a long time. So let's talk about the process here. Okay. We are all wired to belong. We want to belong. And approval feels safe, doesn't it? We want to belong to a club, an organization. Remember, I'm old enough, many of you are not, to remember the sitcom Cheers and the phrase in the song where everybody knows your name. That's why people go to the same country club, the same restaurant, the same bar, the same church, the same small group, the same riding club, yeah, the same country club, the same tennis club, the same golf club. Yeah. You're a boater, you're a skier. The reason you go RVing to the same places, you winter at that same place every year, we've seen it year after year after year down in Florida. Belong. Yeah. And approval feels secure, acceptable, and stable. But when approval becomes the driver of your life, you stop making decisions based on truth. You start making decisions based on reaction. That's not where you need to go. But that's what happens. That's what you're doing. And we learn this very early on in our lives because we want to cope. We learn to be good, don't rock the boat, keep people happy, be who others need you to be, and it works. It got us connected, but we abandoned ourselves in the process. And here's what it literally created for us. It creates approval and performance. When you need approval, you edit yourself. You soften the truth. You delay the decisions. You stay where you've outgrown. Your life becomes a performance, not a reflection of who you really are. You're living there. I can feel it. I'm talking to you guys. There and 4 back at me. I'm telling you, I've been there. Here's what truth will do. It will disrupt. And this is what you want to avoid. This is why you don't want to do this. This is why every time you listen to one of my podcasts, you go, oh my God, that guy's talking about it again. Les Paulcott talking about it. I know I should, but I don't want to. Okay. But it's going to shift relationships. It's going to shift your role. It's going to shift dynamics. It's going to shift expectations. And when it does, people don't want to do that. That's why they stay where they are. You've heard the phrase, stay in that familiar mud. Why do you stay in a really bad marriage? Familiar. Why do you stay in a really bad job? Familiar. Why do you live in a really bad place? Because it's familiar. I mean, all the things that we do because we're not willing to risk the cost of change. We don't want to disrupt things. All right. So I'm going to land this plane for you. I want you to think about this question today. Okay? I want you to sit with this. Where in your life are you choosing approval over truth? Where in your life are you choosing approval over truth? Not where you're being kind. Where are you being careful? Where are you holding back what you already know? And you know it. You see it. You notice it. You're aware of it. Where in your life are you choosing approval over truth? Take some time, write it down. Meditate on it. Think about it. I still see this in myself. I'm telling you. That pull to keep things smooth. Don't disrupt. Avoid the tension. Always want to be liked. Okay. But I have to abandon myself so that I can have peace. And if I don't have peace. And I don't want to live that way anymore. I don't want to live that way anymore. Living from your heart doesn't make you harsh, it makes you honest. Honesty always costs. We don't live in a world that wants to talk and speak from an honest heart anymore. It's not the way the world works, unfortunately, folks. But when you lay down at night and it's just you and your thoughts, you got a lot of thoughts that are haunting you, perhaps. If this episode is resonating with you, let me lay this thought in front of you. Okay? If you will pay attention, notice where you say yes when you mean no. Notice where you stay quiet when you want to speak up. That's just awareness. That's where this begins. Okay? And if you want to really shift and you say, Les Paul, help me do this. That's why I have a coaching program. Okay? You want to go deeper. This is not something to just think about and listen to. Oh, that's nice. And a lot of you been just saying, oh, that's really nice. People hear this, they feel for a moment, and then they run away. Yeah. They go right back to the same old familiar mud and don't make any changes. At some point in your life, you got to decide, are you going to keep listening or are you actually going to shift? Are you going to keep listening or are you going to make a change? I got a coaching program. I can help you through this process, and I have a process to take you through. And that's what I do, is help people walk through the process. Is it the same for everybody? Not a chance in the world. It's different for every person because we're all different. So let me encourage you. In the show notes, there is a link. Click the link in the show notes. Click the link in the show notes. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about you joining forces with me to help you get through the process of learning how to live from your own heart. Hey, it's Les Paul. It's been a privilege to be here. Look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Take care. Let me ask you something. If you're listening right now and you know you've been living out of alignment, you've been showing up for everyone else, and somewhere along the way you lost yourself, then this isn't just a podcast for you. This is your moment. This is your moment. Look, I work privately with a small number of people who are ready to reset their life and start living from their own heart again. Not someday, but now. Now's the time. If that's you, go to the link in the show notes and schedule that private conversation with me. We'll have a conversation. We'll talk. We'll get clear. We'll see if this is your next step. But don't just listen. Don't be a sponge. Make a move. Make a move. Click that link and let's talk.